let's move right along now, and let's ask Carol Snell. Is she out there? Oh.
Thank you, Peter. Every time somebody's come up and read, I've thought, oh, I'm going to talk about that in my introduction. Oh, no, maybe I'll talk about that in my introduction. And I think what's good about, one of the things that's good about First Tuesday Muse, thank you, Billy, Peter, Doug, is that it gives people the chance to tell their own stories. And like Peter, I originally thought, well, I have to talk about Mark Lesage, because listening to his family history on stage with members of his family in the audience was a kind of profound experience, Mark, I have to say. It was incredible. But then I hear Richard talk, and Charlotte, and Michael, and I'm thinking, yeah, I could relate to all these. And I think, oh, we all have these stories. So this story that I want to tell you today is kind of a Christmas story. It's true, and I will read it now. This story could be called The Gift of the Magpie because it concerns collecting shiny things. The title would be a nod to O. Henry's famous tale, The Gift of the Magi, in which the wife cuts off her beautiful long hair to sell and buys her husband a watch fob. Unbeknownst to her, her husband has sold his watch to buy a comb for his wife's hair. My story doesn't involve that kind of sacrifice, but it is just as much about purchasing exactly the right gift. It is a true recount of a Christmas long ago, either the late 50s or the very early 60s. My mother Jean, her older sister Lydia, and her younger sister Mary were all mothers of large families at the time. Eventually, they would have 15 children among them. That meant a lot of presents under the tree for our clan, none of whom were rich in the monetary sense. We did, however, have a priceless regard for the importance of family and a closeness that made Christmas very special. I didn't realize it was printed on both sides, sorry. My mother and her sisters were, of necessity, proponents of the belief that it's the thought that counts. So their gifts to each other were generally inexpensive and useful items that they themselves would want. That was in the heyday of the Christmas catalog. From both Eaton's and Simpson's, a heavy thud at the door meant these documents describing heaven had landed. Always before Halloween, the ensuing 2 months saw me and my 3 siblings poring over them and telling Mum what we wanted Santa to bring, along with the page number and maybe even a circle. Santa was remarkably connected to the inventory of department stores in those days. He usually delivered the exact item once we had whittled down our choices to what Santa, and coincidentally our parents, considered reasonable. The front of the catalogs were all about the toys, page upon page of delightful things that we also saw praised for their magic in television commercials. It taught me how to yearn with an intensity I could never summon now. As children, we didn't pay much attention to the rest of the catalog offerings where the photos descended to black and white and boring, practical adult stuff was advertised. My mother paid attention, though, and in this particular year, past the dog-eared pages that her children had worn thin, she saw the perfect gift for her 2 sisters. It was a shiny aluminum ice bucket shaped like a beehive with a hammered pattern that made it look something like a giant, slightly flattened raspberry. So perfect was this choice and so affordable that Mom ordered one for each sister and one for herself. She needed an ice bucket, and this one was perfect. When they arrived, delivered to our door, it was not in the over-packaging style of today. They were in simple brown paper packages that required them to be removed and wrapped to look festive. Mom did one up for Lydia and another for Mary. The parcels looked like giant gumdrops. Finally, it was Christmas Day, and the family was all together. We children were playing with our gifts from page 3 or 10 or 15 from the catalog. It was time for the sisters to exchange gifts. My mom, Jean, brought out 2 gumdrop-shaped gifts, one each for Lydia and Mary. Lydia brought out 2 gumdrop-shaped gifts, one each for Jean and Mary. And you guessed it, Mary brought out 2 gumdrop-shaped gifts for Jean and Lydia. They all stared. Then all 3 started to giggle as they unwrapped their presents. Lydia, Jean, and Mary had bought identical items from the catalog. By now they were laughing out loud. "Not only did I buy one for each of you," said my mother, "I bought one for myself." "So did I," admitted Lydia. "Me too," shouted Mary. They collapsed into the kind of laughter that makes you hold your sides and cross your legs. Eatons may have wondered what was wrong with the ice buckets when of the 9 purchased by just 3 women, 6 were returned. In fact, nothing was wrong with them. They were perfect. They showed 3 sisters just how well they knew each other and made the holiday a time of joyous laughter, and that is a perfect gift.